All right, this news just breaking moments ago. Fox News has obtained photos of one of the Somali illegal immigrants wrapped up in the Minnesota fraud scandal, posing with several high-profile Minnesota Democrats, including Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Governor Tim Walz. The man pictured is Abdul Dahir Ibrahim. He entered the country in 2000 and has had an order for removal since 2004. He also has a prior conviction in Canada for asylum and welfare fraud. ICE tells Fox News Ibrahim was granted temporary protected status for 10 years, but should have never been eligible. We are going to have more on this in our next hour.
Man, this is why it's so important that Trump is stripping everybody of their TPS right now, man, because stuff like this is just ridiculous and out of control, like to say the very least. And what really irritates me is, we got to talk about this. We got to expose it. I'm going to report on this, and I'm glad Fox News and obviously all of us of like-minded are exposing the truth for what it is. But man, at some point, these DNC politicians got to pay, man. I mean, you have this guy who's part of the Feeding Our Future scam, out there in Minnesota, but he's also was guilty, of frauding, of asylum fraud and welfare fraud in Canada as well. So this guy is going from country to country participating in fraud. And then you see him hugged up with Ilhan Omar. He's hugged up with Tim Walz. We've seen so many of these guys. Ilhan Omar is on record for taking campaign donations from Feeding Our Future scammers, as well as the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison. He's also on record for taking $10,000 in scammer money from the Feeding Our Future scammers from Somalia. And once again, just when is something going to come out from this? That's just what I'm waiting for. You got Tim Walz. You have all the government workers that are part of DHS in Minnesota that have reported that Tim Walz was actively retaliating against whistleblowers who attempted to bring this to his attention early as far as the Feeding Our Future scam is concerned, and wanting him to do something about it, but he wouldn't do anything about it. Like, everybody knew, even the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Fry, his aide, who was a Somali refugee, he went down as well. He went down as part of the Feeding Our Future scam. He pled guilty along with the Safari Somali restaurant co-owner. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. I can go on and on concerning this, but let's just come back to this guy here. Look at this. Let me pull this article up from the New York Post because it gives a little bit more detail concerning some of the crimes that he committed. But man, thank God for Trump, like stripping the TPS from these people moving forward and just getting these fraudsters up out of here. I mean, look at this here. Ibrahim has an extensive criminal history and has had removal orders against him since 2004, according to Fox News. We just heard that. Got it. Look at this guy out here in the cold, looking miserable and pathetic now. That's what you get. Prior to entering the U.S. prior to entering the U.S., Ibrahim was convicted of asylum and welfare fraud in Canada, the outlet reported. The Somali national was also busted for providing false information to police. So that's something new. The Somali national was also busted for providing false information to police and driving without a valid license in Dakota County, Minnesota in 2002. Ibrahim was fined and sentenced to a year probation in the case. He accumulated 12 traffic or parking citations while in the U.S. During this period, Ibrahim has been photographed with several high-profile politicians in Minnesota. Obviously, Tim Walz, who most likely was probably getting something under the table. We're not surprised there. You see him here with his, his people, Ilhan Omar. I'm sure, she was doing a lot of covering up for these guys. The article continues to read. We're going to bring it to a close. DHS shared images of Ibrahim posting with Walz and Omar and former Minneapolis mayor candidate Omar Fattah. So we even have our man Omar Fattah. You guys know him. He's the one that lost recently. He was running against Jacob Fry for mayor of Minneapolis. He's the Democrat socialist. He's Minneapolis's Zorhan Mamdani. Let's keep going. Criminal illegal alien Abdul Dahir Ibrahim has been linked to Minnesota's top sanctuary politicians, read the DHS Post. Ibrahim was convicted in Canada for asylum fraud and welfare fraud Prior to his entry into the United States, the post continued. On April 3rd, 2004, an immigration judge ordered Ibrahim removed, citing the significant amount of fraud associated with him. This is another reason, too, like I'm so glad and I am so happy that what we're seeing now is that we have ICE waiting at the courthouse for folks the moment that their cases are either thrown out or found to be like, just unwarranted. Your asylum has been denied. And they immediately grab them and take them away. Immediately. All of this stuff where you have a removal order and you're able to walk out the court and we're expecting you to, at that point, self-deport in good faith. That's over with. There is no more good faith self-deportation once you're in the court. The judge isn't going to say, hey, you have an order of removal. Now you need to leave in a timely fashion. These guys just disappear every time. There's no timely fashion. They're not going to just disappear. They're not going to just deport themselves. Now you got to go looking for them. What does it say here as we round this out? Fox News reported that Fatah, right, Omar Fatah, the Democrat socialist, wrote a letter of recommendation for Ibrahim during his immigration proceeding. So are any of you surprised? Are any of you surprised? The Democrat socialist that lost running it for Minneapolis mayor, Omar Fatah, wrote a letter of recommendation for Ibrahim, the Somali scammer who engaged in asylum and welfare fraud in Canada and then was able to come over here and receive TPS, even though he shouldn't have been able to get TPS status. And then while he was here, was frauding and scamming as well. That is crazy. All these guys are guilty. When they're going to be held accountable, whether it's Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Omar Fatah, Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota. I mean, even Jacob Fry. I mean, somebody has got to get held accountable at this point, man. Come on. This is just ridiculous. I'm glad to see that we have these scammers getting snatched up off the streets and taken away. And obviously more are going to get snatched up and taken away. But once again, man, at some point, these DNC politicians have to pay because they're clearly in on this. Clearly, it's just beyond obvious at this point.
Based on what we have found so far, we believe that the Somali fraud operation in Minnesota is the single greatest theft of taxpayer dollars through welfare fraud in American history. We believe that we have only scratched the very top of the surface of how deep this goes. And you're familiar with all the scams with pretending that children have autism who are not in fact autistic, with pretending to enroll people in food programs when in fact nobody was ever enrolled, and engaging in massive fraud, lying, and theft and grift on a scale we've never seen before in American history. The total bill, the total tab for this is going to be far beyond the numbers we've already seen reported. We believe the state government is fully complicit in this scheme, and we believe that what we are going to uncover is going to shock the American people.